Now to new developments in the Scott Peterson case. The California man was convicted in 2004 of killing his wife and unborn child, but now the LA Innocence Project is taking up his case, saying his innocence claim is supported by newly discovered evidence. Dan Abrams is standing by to break it down. Let's start with Kana Whitworth in Los Angeles. Good morning, Kana.
Hey, George, good morning. So in terms of that new evidence, the Innocence Project also says that it raises a lot of questions about who abducted and killed Laci and that Peterson's rights were violated.
This morning, a shocking turn in the case against Scott Peterson, the man convicted of killing his pregnant wife Laci and their unborn child in 2002.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Scott Lee Peterson, guilty of the crime.
The Los Angeles Innocence Project filing a motion stating evidence has been discovered that points to Mr. Peterson's innocence and points to the actual perpetrators of the crimes against Laci and Connor Peterson. The motion claims witnesses who saw Laci the morning she went missing were not properly interviewed and that a burglary right near the Peterson home around the same time was not fully investigated. They also want more DNA testing of a burned-out van found a mile away. Peterson's trial attorney, Mark Garagos, remembers arguing the case.
There were unbelievable amount of leads and pieces of evidence that pointed everywhere but Scott.
Now 51 years old, Scott Peterson is currently serving a life sentence.
We, the jury, made a decision based on a set of facts. In the end, all agreed on one thing. Scott Peterson was guilty of having murdered his wife and unborn child.
Laci was 8 months pregnant when she went missing over 2 decades ago on Christmas Eve.
We'll be giving birth real soon. We need to bring him home, and I think that's the best way that we can do it all.
Peterson sat down with our Diane Sawyer a month after Laci's disappearance.
Everybody sitting at home wants the answer to the same question. Did you murder your wife?
No, I did not. And I had absolutely nothing to do with her disappearance.
Suspicion mounted as details of an affair surfaced. The woman, Amber Fry.
Scott told me he was not married. We did have a romantic relationship.
Peterson was arrested in April of 2003, on the same day the bodies of his wife and unborn son were identified. He maintains his innocence, claiming his wife disappeared while he was out fishing.
This is a miscarriage of justice. I do not think that the jury got it right. I think this prosecution was flawed from the beginning.
Also this morning, the Modesto, California fire investigator telling the Innocence Project that he has been deeply troubled by what he views as an insufficient investigation into the possibility that that burned van was related in some way to the disappearance of Laci. George.
Okay, Kana, thanks. Let's bring in our chief legal analyst, Dan Abrams. Dan, you logged an awful lot of hours covering this trial. How surprising was this?
I was stunned that the Innocence Project is taking this. Now, the Innocence Project does some very good, important work on behalf of people who are actually innocent, right? Not technical violations, people who have been wrongly convicted. In this case, there was an enormous amount of evidence against Scott Peterson. What they're ignoring here is the evidence that was actually presented against him. The fact that the body was found exactly where he said he was fishing, 90 miles away from his home. That his girlfriend had him on tape admitting that he had said his wife was gone before she died. The fact that Scott Peterson gave different accounts of where he was either golfing or fishing, depending on who he talked to, on Christmas Eve with his 8.5-month pregnant wife supposedly at home. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of the evidence against Scott Peterson that this motion doesn't really address.
This evidence may bolster alternate theories for the defense, but it doesn't weaken the evidence against him.
Right. And look, all these issues were raised during the trial, right? This idea of a burglary that happened across the street. Real issue, right? Had to be investigated. Happened either on the day of, the day after. It matters between the two. That was something the defense tried to raise as reasonable doubt. Jury didn't accept it. Eyewitnesses who claimed that they saw someone who looked like Laci after the time Scott Peterson had already left the house. Again, something else that was rejected. They got tons of tips at the time. Some of them from crackpots, some of them real. A lot of them were investigated, but none of them changed the evidence against Scott Peterson.
So what happens next?
So look, the question now is going to be, do they even get a hearing on this, right? I mean, look, this case is 18 years old. You don't automatically get new trial and new evidence and new testing 18 years later. They're going to have to demonstrate that they have a real chance of proving his innocence. I think that's a long shot. Is it possible that they'll get a hearing on this? Maybe. Is it possible they'll get a new trial on this? I think almost impossible. But you never know.
Dan Abrams, thanks very much. Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.